It is a cold, cold, icy night in Glen Burnie, Maryland, but inside Michael's 8th Avenue, the fans are ready, they are hyped, they are hot, because it's time once again for Ballroom Boxing. Hi everybody, I'm Larry Michael. Great to be back with my partner, Jon Saraceno. Jon, we've got a tremendous card for the fans tonight, but also a major announcement of historical significance.
Well, I'm not allowed to give out too many facts. I can only tell our viewers it is a very heavy announcement.
All right, we're going to have to wait for that a little bit later. We've got a tremendous night of boxing as well. We're going to see two heavyweights with a combined record of 20-1. It is Jed Phipps and Brian Minto. Last time out for Jed Phipps, not a night to remember, Jon.
Well, last September, Jed Phipps suffered his first professional defeat. Very good puncher, but a very green heavyweight, Larry, and he was exposed in that fight last September. We can't see what's going on inside of his head. That's really the key in this fight. So before the fight tonight, we asked Jed Phipps what he learned from that first defeat of his.
Well, first of all, it was definitely a negative, and you always turn negative into a positive. And, you know, when I watched it on TV, I didn't feel so bad because I realized a lot of things I was doing right and also a lot of things I was doing wrong. So we've been working on the head movement a lot, and my hands were going up and down, and actually Troy Beets was timing me. He told me that's the main thing.
Well, Jed's opponent, Brian Minto, has a lot of similarities with Jed Phipps' unbeaten record, 10-0, and Minto feels this is a big step up for him tonight, facing Jed Phipps.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a real big step up fight a guy with basically the same record. He's a big, strong guy, you know, big puncher, so I think it's a real big step up fight for me.
And it is a big fight for Minto, but it's an even bigger fight for Jed Phipps. And it's a real curious manager's decision, I think, Larry, to match a fighter who's coming off a devastating knockout against a fighter who's 10-0, and Jed Phipps has never gone 8 rounds if the fight lasts that long.
Interesting matchup, Phipps and Minto, two hard-hitting heavyweights. So the fighters seem ready, we are ready, and Jon, more on that special announcement coming up later?
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of it, Larry. We are going to have a former heavyweight champion of the world fighting here in the ballroom very soon.
All right, details on that coming up. Our first fight is next. You are watching Ballroom Boxing.
Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Toyota. By Michael's 8th Avenue, a host of grand occasions. By BallroomBoxing.com, the latest in ballroom boxing action, including upcoming live events and season tickets. Welcome back to Ballroom Boxing. Larry Michael with Jon Saraceno. We have two ladies ready to square off in the squared circle. Talia Smith and Angel McNamara making her pro debut. John Scheinman with more.
Larry, there's so few women boxing that Angel McNamara has been trying to make her pro debut for a year and a half. She's had 4 fights pull out. She finally got one tonight with Talia Smith. McNamara was a former top 3-sport athlete at Morgan State University. She liked boxing best and wasn't counting that as one of the 3. Tonight in her debut, she goes against Talia Smith. She started her career at 3-0, but was stopped in her last bout after stepping up in class. It's going to be a good test for the newcomer, Angel McNamara.
All right, thank you, John Scheinman. Okay, go ahead and get it out of the way. It's Talia Smith, not
Talia Shire.
All right.
I was trying to goad him into saying it, folks, but he's too good.
All right, let's go to Pat O'Malley to introduce these ladies.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for more Ballroom Boxing. This 4-round bout in the junior lightweight division. Your referee in charge is Gary Campaneschi. The scorekeeper is John Gradowski. The timekeeper is Tommy Canaris. Introducing the boxers, first to my left, out of the red corner, wearing the black trunks with the red trim. She weighed in at 132 and comes to us from Cambridge, Maryland. Making her professional debut, please welcome Angel Something Nice McNamara. To my right, out of the blue corner, wearing the pink trunks with black trim. She weighed in at 128 1/4 pounds. She hails from Columbus, Ohio. Her record, 3-1, 3 KOs. Please welcome tantalizing Talia Smith.
Well, this this is a tantalizing matchup. John, why don't you take a look at the matchup? Smith against McNamara, who makes her pro debut tonight.
Yeah, tough position to
All
be
right,
in.
ladies, you
Talia
both
Smith
received your
looks like
instructions
all
in the
business
dressing
over
room.
in
I
that
expect a
corner.
clean fight.
She's had a little bit of a weight
Protect yourself at all
disadvantage,
times.
but certainly
Most
she's
of all,
the
you
more
obey my
experienced
commands.
fighter,
Touch 'em up and wait for the
and
bell.
she's 7 years younger.
So we are set
Scheduled
for
4
this
rounds.
one. Talia Smith and Angel McNamara scheduled for 4 rounds tonight. Junior lightweights. And the pro debut for Angel McNamara, 30 years old, and Jon Scheinman gave you the lowdown on her. Went to Morgan State University, played basketball and softball, but it's time for her to try a different sport now, boxing. And there are no teammates to rely on in boxing.
She's going to find that out very quickly if she doesn't already know it. She looked very tight in her corner, which would be expected with a fighter making their pro debut.
Especially here, not too far from her home in Cambridge, Maryland, which is, I'd say, about an hour and a half from the Baltimore area. And there you see Talia Smith, 3-1. The age and experience has to mean something in terms of nerves, don't you think, John?
Well, it means a lot in all areas, but especially being able to control those emotions that all fighters have. McNamara's never been in this position before. With no headgear, smaller gloves, fighting before a large live crowd. So it is a new experience, and I happened to see Smith before the fight a couple of hours before her fight tonight, and believe me, she was as serious as a heart attack. And she still has that look on her face. And she looks like she wants to set down on her punches. McNamara up on her toes, trying to box. She's going to have to get that jab going.
Women's rounds are 2 minutes long, 2 minutes, 4 2-minute rounds here in this one. And McNamara beginning to use that jab and reach advantage here midway through the first.
And that's really going to be her biggest ally, is her height and reach advantage. If she can keep poking out that jab, just to distract Smith, keep her off balance. Otherwise, Talia is going to set down on that right hand, and it could be a short night.
Overhand right by Smith, and a nice counter by McNamara as they exchange here towards the end of round 1.
Looks like we got a little blood from the nose of Talia Smith. Just a bit. She doesn't look quite as frisky as she did to start off the round, Smith.
It's a good matchup. And you're right, she tasted some leather there early and it slowed her down. Round 1 coming to a close here in the ballroom. All right, we're back. More ballroom boxing. Round 2 underway. And let's bring Jon Scheinman in. We know he is the expert on the women's game. And John, how did you have the first round score?
Oh, thank you, Larry. 10-9, Talia Smith. Extremely close. It could have gone either way. I talked to McNamara yesterday, and I said, what can we expect out of you? Lots of times when women fight for the very first time, they get so wound up, they throw just tons of punches. She goes, I'm not that way at all. You're going to see a very economical fighter fighting from long range, working behind the jab. She's shown us that so far. And even though I gave the round to Smith, I thought McNamara looked really, really good.
You know, I think I made a mistake. Scheinman told me he knew a lot about women. He didn't say he knew a lot about women's boxing.
Economical. Where can we find an economical analyst? We're just teasing. We love Scheinman.
Well, let me ask Scheinman a question. This looks like a pretty competitive fight here, John, don't you think?
Absolutely, Larry. Back to you.
He learned. Jon Scheinman is nothing if not smart. And he knows the horses, too.
I was waiting to counterpunch, and he didn't give me nothing to counter with. McNamara trying to smother Smith a little bit. Smith, you know, a lot of that intensity, John, is I don't think she's doing a whole lot with it.
Well, she came out wailing with right hands instead of trying to box her way in and break her opponent down. And she got hit in some of those exchanges, and now she's backed off a little bit. And I think she should be more aggressive with the jab and not worry about that right hand so much right now. But she's also got some redness on her face. She got touched up in that first round, even though I had her winning the round as John did.
McNamara, though, doing very little here in round 2, and here comes Smith behind the jab. So it's a tough fight to score. McNamara has done very little offensively in the second round, midway through this one. In the ballroom, and Smith tags him.
That was a good counter left hand by Smith.
Good action here. A women's battle in the ballroom. The fans like it. We'll be back. action from round 2. And again, tough fight to judge right now. If you like the aggression of Smith or the boxing from a distance of McNamara, their pro debut. Very, very tough fight to judge. And here we are, round 3. John, I'm not sure either one of these girls has really done enough to distinguish herself. For me, I'm looking at a draw so far. What do you think?
Well, I've got Smith ahead in this fight, but it is a close fight. I think she clearly won the first round. I also gave her the second round by a much closer margin.
McNamara firing that jab and scoring, coming back with the right hand right behind it.
McNamara is gaining confidence in this fight, and that's what Smith should not have allowed.
Well, McNamara needs to throw some punches. Last round, she just walked around the ring, didn't throw any punches.
I think she's a little bit concerned. When she threw a jab a couple times, she got countered, and it made her a little more cautious. But if she keeps pumping the jab, trying to pile up points, she's got to get a little closer to her opponent. She's too far from Smith.
Talia Smith in the black and white trunks. Angel McNamara in the black trunks with the red trim and the red top.
You can see McNamara is an athlete. I mean, she played, we're told, basketball at Oregon State. You can see that she is athletic.
The girl getting an advantage in this one, though.
Smith's finding it very difficult trying to get inside the jab, but she's standing on the outside of a taller, rangier fighter. That's a prescription to lose.
McNamara has been somewhat robotic and predictable in her movements, moving to her left.
I don't know if it's just Smith trying to load up Larry with that right hand. The reason why she's trying to jab there. She missed with the right.
Nice uppercut on the inside as we wrap up round 3 here in the ballroom. 2 minutes to go. The 4th and final round will be next. Round 3. Who won this one, Jon Saraceno? Another tight round to judge.
Well, I thought Smith landed a couple right hands, particularly towards the end of the round.
This is the 4th and final round.
Unofficially.
What do you think, John Scheinman? Who's winning with 2 minutes to go?
Very briefly, Larry, I think Talia Smith is winning the fight. I think she's, if it goes like this, she'll win by decision, and McNamara will look back at the tape and say, my gosh, why didn't I throw more punches? I had her out on the end of my jab the whole fight.
Yeah, you know what? For the first time this century, I'm agreeing with Jon Scheinman. McNamara, I think if she had a different strategy, and you know, it doesn't take a lot to throw the jab, John. It's not like it's going to take a lot out of you in a 4-round fight.
No, but don't forget, it's her pro debut. I mean, she's very green. And, you know, if this was down the road 3-4 fights, she'd probably beat Smith handily, based on style.
Very tight fight, though. Neither fighter has had the edge in any significant way.
And who knows how the judges have it scored.
The differences have been subtle. I mean, if you like the girl that put the pressure on, that'd be Talia Smith. Stops her from a distance has been McNamara.
Box. Go. Box.
I just think that Smith has landed the more effective punches, and McNamara hasn't landed nearly enough punches, I think, to win the fight.
Corner of Talia Smith is just pounding her to get moving a little bit. Finish strong. This is the 4th and final round. It doesn't look like anybody's getting knocked out in this one.
Well, they both fought the fight as if they're a pair of counter punchers, and I don't think that's really the case, but that's the kind of stylistic fight we've had.
McNamara continues to move to her left and occasionally shoot out the jab. Smith never has cut the ring off.
I mean, look how big and strong McNamara is. Look how broad her shoulders are. Look at her reach. Imagine if she walked down Smith. What she's doing there.
Nice combination there. Is it too little too late for Angel McNamara?
Maybe not to pull out a draw.
Clock winding down on this fight, and it will go to the judges' scorecard.
You know what? If you call that fight a draw, I wouldn't argue with it.
We'll find that officially when we come back. This women's battle goes the distance here in the ballroom. Let's look back on some action here, John. Neither fighter goes down in this fight. Neither fighter is hurt. Very close decision coming up.
It was a close fight. I think McNamara won the last round. She may have won the second round. You could and scored a draw. I thought Smith edged her a little bit with effective punching, but I think because Smith was knocked out in her last fight in one round in the fall, caused her to be more cautious than she should have been.
Are you officially predicting a draw here, John? Because this would be history if you officially predict a draw.
You may take your dog to the restaurant, but no smoking.
All right, well, let's see if Jon Saraceno is right with his first prediction of 2004. Let's find out who won. Let's go to Pat O'Malley.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the scorecards. Judge Malik Waleed scores it 38-38. Judge Holmes scores it 39-37, as does Judge Kenny Chevalier. And the winner by a majority decision, Angel Something Nice McNamara!
One judge had it even, and the other had it as a 2-point advantage for Angel McNamara. Tough decision for Talia Smith
for
here.
both girls.
I think she was thinking at the worst she'd get a draw.
Yeah, I think she thought she was busier than she was.
John, well done. We'll have more ballroom boxing coming up from the ballroom at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Don't go away. Matchup. Maxwell Taylor had a great amateur career against Henry Humphrey, who packs a wallop. More on this one, here's John Scheinman.
Larry, you gave it away. This is going to be a great matchup. I predict this is the fight of the night. Well, I might be wrong, but I think this has a potential for great action. Maxwell Taylor, 268 amateur fights. He's been fighting since he was 8 years old. When he turned pro last year, he was ranked 8th in the country. He's 152 in the amateurs. I mean, this guy is evidently the entire package. And in his last fight, as Jeff Jowett, the boxing writer for Boxing Digest said, he dealt out a fearsome beating to his opponent. So he's fighting Henry Humphrey, 6-1. His last fight was a loss, but he knocked his opponent down in the first round. A very game fighter. Should be a great matchup for the young Maxwell Taylor.
Watch the power punching Henry Humphrey. Don't sell that power short. Let's get this one started, as always, with Pat O'Malley.
It's time now, ladies and gentlemen, for more ballroom boxing. This 4-round bout in the junior middleweight division. Your referee in charge is Malik Waleed. The scorekeeper is Gary Campaneschi. The timekeeper is Tommy Canaris. The judges at ringside, Kenny Chevalier, John Gradowski, and Bill Holmes. Introducing the boxers. First to my right, out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks. He weighed in at 148 3/4 pounds. He comes to us from Buffalo, New York. His record, 6-1, 6 via the KO. Please welcome Henry the Hammer Humphrey. To my left, out of the red corner, wearing the red, white, and blue trunks. He weighed in at 153 3/4 pounds from Edgewater, Maryland. His record, 3-0, 1 via the KO. Please welcome Maxwell, the General Taylor.
Maxwell Taylor and Henry Humphrey, and this should be a great fight. Let's listen in to Malik.
Okay, fellas, listen up. I expect good, clean boxing. When I say break, you both ought to stop punching, take a full step back, and remember, protect yourselves at all times. Touch them up.
All right, let's take a look at the matchup very quickly, John.
We have a scheduled 4
we'll
rounds.
see if that 5-pound weight difference, Taylor being the heavier fighter, makes a difference.
Oh, yeah.
And Taylor only 19 years old against Henry Humphrey, 33.
Humphrey coming off his lone loss as a pro, and for Taylor, it's his 4th fight as a professional. John Scheinman talked about the 200-plus amateur fights he had, and he is the southpaw in the ring right now, Maxwell Taylor. Taylor in the blue trunks, Humphrey in the white trunks. Both these guys look to be in great condition. Very cautious in the early going here.
Taylor's father was also a fighter. He was in the Army. That's where he learned how to fight. Really a pure technician, and being a southpaw makes it that much more difficult for his opponent, Henry Humphrey, tonight. That's why you see the general there. Taylor's waistband, a nod to his father's career. And also the fact that he likes to be the boss when he's in the ring.
Last fight I saw Humphrey in was 2 fights ago when he devastated Nehemiah Woods at Washington, D.C.'s fight night. I mean, he just blew him out in round 1. He followed that with his lone loss as a professional, a split decision loss to Anthony Powell. So, you know, in Humphrey's mind, he probably still feels as though his record is unblemished.
This is a different night, and he's got a lot in front of him. Taylor, very experienced amateur fighter, as we mentioned earlier. In his 4th professional fight, looks like he has all kinds of potential to become one of the better prospects in boxing today. This is not an easy test. I mean, a lot of managers, trainers would not send a young, undefeated, promising fighter in with a guy like Henry Humphrey with that kind of power.
These are the kind of fights that make this place so special in the ballroom. 2 young fighters. Both men really taking a risk with their career facing the other.
Really a bigger risk for Taylor, only being 19 years old. But he's going to learn a lot from a fight like this too. And you can see he has the poise and experience to handle himself at a certain level already, even though this is his 4th professional fight. You see how he moves on his feet, how he gets out of trouble, how he punches and gets out.
Movement is giving Humphrey a lot of problems right now, Johnny. He really has no angle. He's reaching. Taylor has him reaching all over the ring.
Yeah, Humphrey does not look like a 33-year-old fighter in there. Missed wildly with that right hand.
This fight is scheduled for 4 rounds here in the ballroom. Taylor in blue, Humphrey in white. First round in the books. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, ballroom boxing.
All right, we're back. Ballroom boxing back in your house. Larry Michael with Jon Saraceno, and very excited to, of course, make the announcement tonight. Hasim Rahman will be the feature in our next ballroom boxing card here March the 11th. If you want to check out the promotion leading up to that date, we invite you to join us here in the ballroom in Michael's 8th Avenue for that fantastic fight card on March the 11th. In the ring right now, we have Maxwell Taylor in the blue trunks. He has that incredible amateur record, 268 amateur bouts, won a lot of different titles. And Henry Humphrey in the white. And right now, the power of Humphrey has been totally negated by the boxing ability of Taylor. And Humphrey looks a little befooled right now, John.
He is having a problem with the style of the southpaw. He's a very slick boxer. Raw in the sense that he doesn't have many pro fights, but very experienced. He knows his way around the ring. You can see him putting together his combination punches, starting off with that right jab.
And a little bit of swelling around the left eye of Henry Humphrey, and it's swelling quickly. And that corner is going to have to do some work.
A good body shot by the general. And he's just boxing Humphrey in small circles in the center of the ring. He keeps turning him, and Humphrey isn't quick enough to punch back and be effective at it.
Taylor really picking up the pace here.
Double straight left hand and then downstairs to the body. He's showing him his full arsenal of boxing ability here tonight. Taylor putting on a marvelous performance in only his 4th fight.
A lot of guys with this style are compared to Pernell Whitaker, the hit and move type of fighter. And he's doing a great job of dipping under the shots of Humphrey. Humphrey not even getting a chance to throw, John.
Well, Taylor is 2.5 beats faster. And when you have that kind of foot and hand speed, even though the other guy may be a better natural puncher, we have some swelling along the left eye of Humphrey.
Yeah, I told you. It's ugly, too.
Yeah, starting to close up. He just can't deal with the speed. And speed is power.
AC Taylor hits and ducks and moves. And Humphrey right now, as befuddled as he is, he's going to get desperate. That's what comes next.
What I find most interesting about Taylor is how poised he is, how composed he is, how he knows what kind of game plan he wants to execute, and then he does so.
Stone-faced. I mean, look at him. He hasn't changed the expression at all.
Break. No punching, no punching, no punching. No punching, step out. Okay.
Malik Waleed is the referee, and the left eye of Henry Humphrey closing during the course of round 2 here.
It's starting to look like a clamshell.
Food on the mind of Saraceno. More to come from the ballroom. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Antelope County Sports Hall of Fame.
Action from round 1 here in the ballroom. Taylor, actually round 2, just dancing in boxing rings around Humphrey.
That's exactly what he's been doing for the first 2 rounds. I got him at 2018.
Quickly, Jon Scheinman, your support card at the midway point.
Well, yeah, it's obviously a shutout 2018. The general, he might have been called the general in honor of his father, but it certainly could be for ring generalship. What beautiful movement this guy has. Maxwell Taylor, I'm wondering about the power department. I'd like to see him turn it on later if he really takes control, but he looks like the whole package.
Maybe Maxwell will fast forward. We'll get some more action.
Hey, Henry Humphrey can punch though. And here he's beginning to turn up the heat a little. Taylor slows down. Humphrey beginning to pick it up a little bit. The eye is a factor. Left eye of Henry Humphrey. Severe swelling under the eye from that right jab, really, of Taylor. Nice counter left by Taylor.
Well, it's only a 4-round fight, so Humphrey's getting into it a little bit late here in the 3rd round. He's got to have to pick up the pace and start taking some chances. And it's easier said than done when you're fighting a little whirling dervish in there that is Maxwell Taylor.
Well, Taylor getting off first in this fight, and that's been the difference. Humphrey in this round beginning to punch first, trying to get off first. It's made a little bit of a difference.
Humphrey's just too slow.
Good body shot that time by Humphrey. Right hand, he almost scored with that right hand, Humphrey did.
You know, Humphrey, 6 knockouts and 6 wins, but I haven't seen that power here tonight. I haven't really seen him turn his punches over. Part of that, though, is trying to find the target. He's having a hard time doing that.
Right hand scored by Humphrey that time. Good body shot by Humphrey. Taylor slowed down, no doubt about that. That movement that he had over the first 2 rounds has been slowed down. The combination by Humphrey. Good body shot by Humphrey. Buckles the legs of Taylor.
This is Humphrey's best round by far.
No doubt about it. He's bringing it a little bit here. Oh, just misses with that right hand, whizzing past the lips of Taylor. Taylor a stationary target right now, John.
Well, he's still moving. He still has his good lateral movement, but he's slowed down his punching pace this round.
Humphrey's the only one punching in this round. Good body shot by Humphrey. Left hand by Humphrey. Taylor on the receiving end right now. Humphrey scoring here in round 3. Taylor's hurt a little bit. Boy, what a turnaround in the tempo of this fight. The straight right by Humphrey score.
No stiff arm.
Well, Taylor's got to start punching back. He's taking this round off, and Humphrey is all offense in the 3rd round. Not a moment too soon.
Humphrey closes the gap in round 3. 3 minutes to go in a very, very tight fight here in the ballroom. All right, action from round 3 as Henry Humphrey closed the gap substantially.
Well, he attacked Taylor. Taylor went into more of a shell in front of defensive mode, and that was clearly Humphrey's round. He stung him with several shots.
This is the 4th and final
Final round. Quickly, Jon Scheinman, the scorecard.
29-28, Taylor clinging to his lead now. We knew that Humphrey had power coming in. He showed it there, but I don't know what happened to Taylor. I'd like to see both these guys fighting in the final round.
I'll tell you what happened to Taylor. He got tired. You could see him opening his mouth and trying to gasp, almost spitting that mouthpiece out. Question here is, why is Humphrey not punching here early in round 4? Now he's beginning to open up.
Those are dirty, illegal blows by Humphrey. And Taylor was warned too by the referee Waleed, holding behind the head.
Once again, Taylor, when he's stationary, Humphrey scoring points. When Taylor moves, it becomes a different ball game.
Taylor was boxing beautifully the first 2 rounds. Got away from him in that 3rd round. Went into a defensive shell, and he's never quite gotten himself straightened out here.
Taylor now punching. Those are just pity pat jabs. Nothing behind that punch. Nice combination by Taylor. Every combination counts right now for Taylor, figuring he's probably ahead by a round.
He uses that jab as a rangefinder sometimes. He doesn't really stick it out hard as there he did. He changes up on it.
So Taylor mounting somewhat of a comeback here after a lethargic round 3. Taylor finding a second win. And things slipping away from Henry Humphrey here in the 4th and final round.
Taylor's sucking a little wind. He's tired, but he's continuing to move. The question is he going to win this 4th round to avoid a potential draw?
You never know what the judges see at ringside. They can only give you our interpretation of what we see. And again, Humphrey waiting. In round 3, he took the lead, John, and he had a good round. Here, he's waiting on Taylor. And again, Taylor's tempo.
Well, he's having a hard time finding the target. Again, Taylor moving a lot on him. But he should be punching to the body to try to slow him up. Instead, he's following him around the ring. No body punches at all, or very few from him.
Humphrey beginning to score here as the 4th and final round winds down. Nice left hand by Humphrey. And this fight could still be up for grabs here in the final moments of this 4th and final round. Give Humphrey the 10-8 round, and that would have been enough to overcome what we thought was a 1-point deficit. Boy, what a comeback. Shades of Chavez Taylor in our own small little way here in the ballroom, John.
Well, what a dramatic comeback by Humphrey. We don't know how it's going to be scored, but if you give Taylor the first 2 rounds, I think we agreed ringside we're going to see this knockdown at the end of the fight.
He tried not to go down. It was a straight right hand. Perfect punch, and he was waiting the whole fight for that one. That could have given him the win.
Well, I have Taylor losing the fight 38-37 on that last shot. Here we're going to see it again in the 4th round.
Taylor's hands were down.
Here it comes. Right on the chin, boy. Buckled his legs, and that was just guts trying to get up from that point. But that may have cost him the fight. And there is Maxwell Taylor. Looked like he was going to have Humphrey in his back pocket all night, at least through the first 2 rounds. It started to fall apart for him, Larry, in the 3rd round when he slowed up and Humphrey started catching up to him and landing those right hands. In the 4th round, Taylor seemed to rally, but as the 4th and final round came to a close, Humphrey landed that big right hand on the whiskers.
All right, when we come back, was that punch enough to win it for that man, Henry Humphrey? We will find out in a minute. The decision is next. What a great fight. Taylor and Humphrey go the distance. Let's look back. The final moment of the fight, the knockdown of Taylor by Humphrey that happened at the bell. It did count. It came before the end of the fight. And was that punch enough to pull out the victory for Henry Humphrey? Let's go to the ring and Pat O'Malley to find out if it was.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Judges Bill Holmes, Kenny Chevalier, and John Gradowski all score it 38-37. The winner by unanimous decision, Henry the Hammer Humphrey.
It was 1 point, just like your scorecard.
Yep, that was the difference in the fight, folks. If Taylor doesn't get careless, he wins the fight.
I don't doubt that right there you saw Taylor talk to Humphrey, and I don't doubt that Taylor said, you know what, I want a rematch. I think that was an unfair decision, but in reality, if he had stayed away at the end of the fight, he would have won. He was up by a point on each of the 3 judges' scorecards.
Right. It was a fight where it was really within his grasp. The fight was basically over at that point. Give him credit, though. He kept fighting. You could say, well, gee, why wasn't he moving away? Was he ahead? But let's face it, the fight had drawn closer in that 3rd round. The 4th round was up for grabs. He didn't want it to be a draw. He stood in there and fought. He paid for it, Larry.
All right, let's see what the winner, Henry Humphrey, has to say. He's with Jon Scheinman right now.
Henry, what's that saying? Hey, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. You pulled a rabbit out of your hat there in the last round, knockdown. Tell us about it.
Well, the first 2 rounds, he came out, he was outboxing me. 3rd round, I pulled it out strong on him, and I knew I had to win the 4th, so it was no holds barred. I had to go after him. You know, my coach kept saying, go after him, put the pressure on him, so that's what I did, you know. He tried to trade with me, and that was a mistake.
But it wasn't going to be enough just to win the last round. You needed to score that knockdown.
I agree with you, and I made it happen, and I'm sitting right here as the winner. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, from our perspective, he showed beautiful side-to-side movement and kind of like not hard power, but pot-shotting throughout the first 2 rounds. Do you think the difference was your punching power in the 3rd? Because you just seemed to take over, even though you didn't seem to change your style too much.
Yeah, I believe it's always my punching power, you know. The majority of my, I got all knockouts in my fight, so, hey, of course it is my power, you know. Like I said, he came out, like you said, side-to-side movement. He was a great boxer. He was a great boxer. He still is a great boxer. But I did a lot of cutting the ring off to stop all that movement and start delivering my higher shots, and that's what pulled this fight out for me.
Henry Humphrey pulling out the knockdown in the 4th round to pull out a unanimous decision against former amateur star Maxwell Taylor. Big feather in his cap. Let's go back to ringside.
Well, it came down to the very last punch, and Henry Humphrey knocks Taylor down, and that was the decider. More Ballroom Boxing coming up in just a moment. Welcome back to Ballroom Boxing.
We've got a fantastic cruiserweight matchup, 8 rounds on the schedule. It's Troy Beets and Greg Wright, 2 veterans. We saw Beets last time out here in the Ballroom.
That was a devastating knockout of Jed Phipps, and Troy Beets went on to win his next fight, and he's been a real spoiler. And we asked him if that victory over Jed Phipps jump-started his career.
Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, I need the fights. I need to build my record. I want to hopefully someday become a big-time world champion. And just recently, I started on my way. My last fight, I won the IBA Cruiserweight title, and I'm looking to do even more. And I'm glad that this place and these people, these good people, these generous people, give me the opportunity to come here and fight and show people what I really have. So maybe it can put me on the map a little faster.
Well, Beets certainly has a lot of confidence. He has won here before, but listen to Greg Wright. This is not a man lacking in confidence either.
Because down at Crocs, we feel like this. If the guy doesn't have the experience and we have all this experience, we should be able to go into the ring anytime we want to and do whatever we choose to whoever we want to. If they don't belong in the ring, we have to give them a reason to get out of the ring. And I believe if I said no to a guy who lacks experience like he does, then what place do I have in boxing?
You're coming off holidays. Are you in top shape here, or what percentage would you say you are?
Of course not. I'm not in top shape at all. The bottom line is so, but I'm mentally strong and I'm mentally in shape. And I prepared myself mentally when I decided to come back into the sport. And that's one thing they can't take away from me. You know, physically I'm not in the best shape whatsoever, but guess what? The promoters and matchmakers have never been the greatest of my friends. You know what I'm saying? So they give me the 3 days notice, 4 days notice, week notice. You know, you win some, you lose some, but I'm always going to love this sport. And so, you know what? Anytime I get a chance to get in there, I know I'm going to take care of myself. And anytime that I feel like I can't, I'm done with the sport.
And one reason why he is so confident, Larry, is because he fights out of the Kronk Gym in Detroit, and you know that's one tough joint.
Beets and Wright in one of our co-features, cruiserweight, scheduled for 8 rounds.
All right, welcome back to the Ballroom. Larry Michael with Jon Saraceno, Troy Beets.
Don't forget when I say it's
ready to get it on. Let's go to
time
Jon Scheinman to look at this one. Jon.
Larry, last time we saw Troy Beets in the Ballroom, he was knocking off the undefeated record of Jed Phipps, who was one of the house favorites here. Very candy, subtle, excellent fighter. Beets. He doesn't look like he's like a world-class guy in the ring, but he's got a lot of moves. He told me he's been vacationing in the woods of Mississippi, drinking bud with his family when he got the call for this fight. Greg Wright, his opponent, a Kronk guy, always ready to fight. Ntoh took the fight on short notice, but he said he's ready. I think this is an excellent matchup.
All right, John, let's get this one started with the introductions and Pat O'Malley. Pat?
It's time now, ladies and gentlemen, for more Ballroom Boxing. Introducing the boxers. First to my right, out of the blue corner, for this 8-round bout in the heavyweight division, wearing the gold trunks with red. He weighed in at 198.25 pounds. Out of the Kronk Gym in Detroit, Michigan, his record 29-2, 7 via the KO. Please welcome Greg, Mr. Everything, Wright. To my left, out of the red corner, wearing the solid black trunks. He weighed in at 196.75 pounds. From Ocean Springs, Mississippi. His record, 9-4-1, 6 via the KO. Please welcome Troy, the Basher Beets. Your referee in charge is Gary Camponeschi, who will give the instructions.
Troy Beets.
All right, you gentlemen both receive your instructions in the dressing room. I expect a clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Watch your low blows. Obey my commands. On a break, take a clean step back. Touch him up, wait for the bell.
Fans remember Troy Beets from his last fight here. John, let's take a look at the matchup.
Well, the numbers pretty much say it all. And they're really even. Very good fight on paper. Can Troy Beets be the spoiler for the 3rd consecutive time, Larry?
Greg Wright told us that he hasn't seen anything in the Kronk Gym that he will not see here tonight. So he feels very confident. Fought Charles Brewer for the USBA 168-pound title in '97, losing a 12-round decision. Greg Wright, and John, you mentioned it, out of the Kronk Gym. We know Troy Beets is very unorthodox, and he has shaved since you talked to him before tonight's fight.
Yes, he has.
You didn't recognize him.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. How about that? And Wright wearing those familiar golden Kronk trunks that people have become familiar with over the years, popularized by Tommy Hearns, Milt McCrory, fighters like that. Michael Moore at one time.
Troy Beets, a native of Lafayette, Louisiana, now living in Gulfport, Mississippi. Last fight was on May 29th against a 10-0 fighter, Roman Greenberg. He was reportedly complaining about a problem with his ear in the 3rd round when the referee stopped it. That wasn't his last fight. That was back in May. Then he took on Jed Phipps and won that. The upset here in the Ballroom. And subsequent to that, John, he won the IBA America's Cruiserweight title. 7th round KO over Matthew Charleston in November of 2003. So he's on a little bit of a roll. You talked about it in the open. He feels that win over Jed Phipps has really jump-started his career.
Well, let's see if he can get some more carryover tonight. But again, this is a different fight, different fighter.
Of course, Jed Phipps was a legitimate heavyweight. Greg Wright is a blown-up super middleweight. So you have a pretty big discrepancy between the sizes of this opponent and the last time we saw Beets in the Ballroom against Jed Phipps.
And experience. Greg Wright, this is his 32nd fight. And Jed Phipps, much rawer than that. Fans in the Ballroom booing here a little bit. They don't like to see too much dancing out of the cruiserweights. First round. Natural feeling out process. Now the fighters start to settle down.
Greg Wright has had a few tastes of the big time. We talked about the USBA loss against Charles Brewer. He beat Glenn Robinson for the NABF light heavyweight title in '99, avenging an earlier loss to Robinson. Defended it successfully against Leon Spinks' son, Darryl, and also Dominic Carter, both by knockout. Then he lost a tough 12-round decision to Chris Johnson to drop that belt.
This is a real chess match here in the first round between these two big guys. Scheduled 8-rounder. Wright is in no hurry. Wants to figure out Beets first. He knows what he did to Jed Phipps in his last fight.
Round one winding down. Two big cruiserweights, Troy Beets and Greg Wright. This fight is scheduled for 8 rounds here at Michaels 8th Avenue, and we again remind you, March the 11th here at Michaels, it'll be the former world heavyweight champ Hasim the Rock Rahman taking on Al Ice Cold. Round one, a tough one to judge here in the ballroom. Oh, down goes Wright, right at the bell, and that is not called a knockdown. Gary Campaneschi, he did say it is a knockdown. Gary Campaneschi says it is a knockdown, so that could be significant. We'll take a break. When we come back to Ballroom Boxing, fans loving what they're seeing tonight here at Michaels 8th Avenue. All right, welcome back to Ballroom Boxing. Action from round one, and at the bell, Troy Beets actually missed Greg Wright. It was a slip. I think he missed him. He missed him high with that left hand, but it was called a knockdown by the referee, Gary Campaneschi, who is now admonishing the corner of Greg Wright.
They're unhappy, Wright's corner, because they don't feel their fighter was actually hit by a legitimate blow, and it didn't appear that he was on the replay.
Now let me bring in Jon Scheinman very quickly. John, if a fighter goes down with a knockdown, is the judge obligated to rule it a 10-8 round?
Well, until the last show when we had a situation like that, I thought they were, but in fact in Maryland they are not, Larry. They can make their own decision, but in some states you're right, it is a mandatory point deduction for the judges. My personal opinion on this, on the knockdown, was that he did graze him on the outside of the right side of his head, and that it was a knockdown.
Thank you for that quick analysis, John. Troy Beets in the black trunks. In the red and gold, it is Greg Wright with the familiar front colors. And that's a good right hand by Greg Wright.
Snap Beets' head back.
Hey, don't do that no more.
He scored with the right hand right to the jaw.
And a warning by Campaneschi, the referee, to Beets not to hit right across the throat. It's a good warning.
Beets just 9-4 with 1 draw, 6 wins by knockout. But he's really rededicated himself to the boxing game.
Hey, you know, Beets doesn't look very fancy. He just kind of keeps plodding forward, but you know what, Larry? He throws a lot of punches in volume. He stays busy, and that has an effect on the scoring, too.
Greg Wright doing a great job of covering up right here. None of those punches by Beets finding the mark.
But why is he fighting like that? Why is Wright in the corner covering up? What is he, suddenly Muhammad Ali against George Foreman? If Beets is not George Foreman.
A lot of times guys make strategies on the fly, John. I think right now Wright's saying, I'm just going to sit here and let him punch himself out. Beets is in better condition than the last time we saw him, however.
Well, he's trying to play possible there. He fired a right hand, Wright did, but he missed with it. I don't know, it just doesn't look good. When you're getting pounded on the ropes, even if they're not all effective blows, the judges are not going to score the round for you if you've got your back against the ropes.
And it's only an 8-round fight. You can't give up rounds and think you're going to make it up in rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12.
It's particularly a dumb strategy when the referee ruled you were knocked down at the end of the last round.
And it could be an indication of the conditioning of Wright, and maybe his legs are not there, so this might be his only choice.
Well, that's what fighters do when they are leg weary or they're not trained properly. They use the ropes to their advantage, but they pay for it in the scoring department.
Keep them elbows down.
Warning from Gary Campaneschi for the elbow, and of course Wright is just there covering up. It would be a shame if Beets lost a point.
Nah, he's not going to lose a point. All smart fighters use their elbows. You just don't want to get caught being too obvious with it.
Troy Beets eats the right, but dominates the round.
Right clean.
Here, round 2 in the ballroom. This fight is scheduled for 8. All right, let's take a look at action from round 2. Troy Beets, and this is pretty much the way the whole round looked. Right up against the ropes, and Beets pounding away.
Beating away. Curious strategy by Wright. I think he's got to come out strong in his 3rd round.
Troy Beets looking for his 10th win. Greg Wright trying to counterpunch.
Yeah, he's trying to sucker Beets in, and now suddenly Wright looks like he's throwing punches with authority. I think they may have chewed on his butt in that corner, Larry. After the 2nd round, he looks a lot more focused.
I'm coming. Back up. Keep that
Wright has not fought since September of 2003.
you heard what we were saying at ringside, because he looked down at me and he said, I'm coming.
Well, Wright's a veteran, and from the Kronk gym, you know he knows how to fight. We heard his comments earlier. There's a right hand counter that just misses.
But he's trying to get Beets out of there with one punch. He may do it in the end, but you know, that's not the tactic you probably want to take to wear down an opponent. Beets a very active fighter in a fairly soft midsection. Why doesn't Wright go to the body? He's just pot-shotting the head.
Now Beets, you know, could punch himself out. Last time Beets was knocked out, Roman Greenberg, and what do we have?
Well, I think Wright is claiming he got thumbed or hit in the eye. Maybe he just got hit in the eye. Sometimes you got hit in the eye, not necessarily thumbed because he's using thumbless gloves. A little bit of swelling now underneath the right eye of Wright.
Doctor taking a look at it.
Boy, Wright suddenly got a chippy attitude. Let's see if he can actually turn that into meaningful action.
The interview we have with Wright is a very unique guy. A lot of confidence. I thought he was going to go after Jon Scheinman in that interview session. Got a little upset with some of the questions Jon was asking. He's just got a lot of attitude. And you're right, Jon, if he can channel that into some kind of boxing.
What's all this dancing around? That's what I don't get.
Well, there's some dancing in the crowd, but nothing like what we're seeing here. You know, Greg Wright said he was not in the best of shape, and there is a little bit of a cut above the eye. It could have been a headbutt that he complains about, but above the right eye.
Don't turn around, you're all right.
And he's upset about it. It's bothering him, and Troy Beets is taking advantage right now of the situation. Beets is just smothering Wright right now.
Two-fisted attack. He's doing a good job of it, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's not allowing Wright any punching room, and Wright keeps going to the ropes. A really bad strategy.
And he is just eating a ton of leather. It's fists of fury for Troy Beets right now.
Well, if Wright was winning in that round, he's giving it all away right here, Larry. He keeps complaining to the referee.
1-4 elbows.
Oh, a point deduction from Troy Beets, and we'll let the crowd tell the story.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked by that.
And Greg Wright is thankful, I bet, because that evens out the round. But I mean, Beets has just been pounding on him. Not so sure those elbows were intentional. And now he's opening up wide open with Wright not responding whatsoever. There's the big right hand counter by Wright.
But he's only throwing one punch at a time.
Well, this fight getting more interesting every round. Crowd into it here in the ballroom. We'll be back. Let's take a look at action from round 3, and this is where the point deduction came. And really, Greg Wright was really doing nothing. He was on the receiving end of, I'd say, 3 dozen blows.
Well, that's unfortunate he had a point taken away. Referee Campanishi is a good referee. He had a better look at it than we did because he's right there, but that is an unusual call to say the least.
More of the same fight here now with Wright right up against the ropes. Just positioned right up against. This has been the story the last round and a half. Jon Scheinman, what's your scorecard through 3?
Well, with the point deduction, Larry, all even 29-29. You know, when there was a break in the action early in the prior round, when Wright was complaining about his eye, Beets had elbowed him in the eye. But when the point was taken away, he was just using his elbows to keep him in the corner, which is something I've never seen a point deduction for. So it was a very strange situation.
Well, he had warned him on 2 other occasions, so you can't say that Gary Campaneschi did not warn Troy Beets. And this is just turning into a very ugly fight with Wright unable or unwilling to move to the center of the ring.
Well, I think you were right, Larry, when you said that Wright going back to the ropes is a classic sign of a fighter not being in shape. And it's an old trick. It's a trick that's particularly used by older fighters, of course, for obvious reasons. Usually you don't see a younger fighter going to the ropes. Greg Wright, apparently at 33 years old, figures he needs those ropes. He's doing a lot of clowning and not a lot of fighting. I mean, he may train out of the Kronk gym at times, but I guarantee if Manuel Stewart ever trained him, it wasn't for long because Emmanuel wouldn't put up with that.
Well, Troy Beets doing all he can to make this an action fight. Wright not cooperating.
He's the most uncrunk-like fighter I've ever seen, in fact.
I'll tell you what, it's beginning to pile up a little bit, though. I think Troy Beets is getting through with some of these shots here now in round 4. And I think Wright not only has his legs going, but the rest is going as well.
Come on, Bill.
Well, Beets is a two-fisted machine. I mean, he's not particularly...
Come on, now Greg Wright is waving Beets in. And really what Beets needs to do is move back.
How about a point deduction for that, for not fighting? I mean, Campanishi, the referee, can give Wright a warning and instruct him to fight. He's not fighting.
Beets doing a good job just staying within his game plan, not doing anything stupid.
Well, I'll tell you what, Wright is doing something stupid if he ever wants to fight in the ballroom again, because promoter Scott Wagner will have none of that. I mean, he won't be back here if he's going to come in with a performance like this.
Round 7, another good one for Troy Beets as Wright leans up against the ropes for another 3 minutes. We'll be back after this. All right, well, back round 5. This fight is scheduled for 8. And Greg Wright, the last couple of rounds, has done nothing but sit up against the ropes. And he's slowly moving back to that same position.
Maybe that was a legitimate knockdown in the first round, and his head hasn't cleared.
Back at camera.
It's a right hand.
Just for you. Just for you. Right in the corner.
Yeah. Greg Wright talking to the guys in the crowd right there. And obviously, you know, this is not what we are used to seeing here in the ballroom. Greg Wright trying to fire out of that corner.
Well, it is an 8-round fight, and maybe at some point Greg Wright is actually going to fight. Maybe it'll be tonight, maybe it'll be this year, maybe it'll be this century. But eventually, maybe he'll fight.
Campanishi moving Greg Wright to the middle.
I'm still waiting for the referee to tell him to fight.
I tell you what, I'm so impressed with Troy Beets not getting frustrated, staying within himself. He really has not let the hijinks of Wright get to him at all.
Yeah, he's not a fancy dancer, more of a plotter, but he's effective in what he tries to do.
He hasn't let this strategy at all, and I don't think he's armory because he's not really putting that much into these punches.
No.
He's just touching the opponent with punches.
Just piling up points is what he's doing.
Big time.
Putting the rounds in the bank, the way we're looking at it.
Beets continues to pound away. More of the same for Greg Wright in the corner.
Wright, not the biggest puncher in the world either. Coming in this fight, 31 bouts, only 7 knockouts. So as the fight goes into the latter rounds, it's not like he's going to pull it out with one shot. At least the odds are that's what's going to happen.
Beets doing a good job moving on an angle to his right, trying to find room, now backing away. It's like a sparring session for Troy Beets right here, and Wright is playing the role of a punching bag.
Well, if we were at the Kronk Gym in Detroit and this is a sparring session, they'd close the gym down right about now.
Crowd very impatient with the performance of Greg Wright.
Troy Beets has won his last 3 fights. Excuse me, the last 2 fights, both on stoppages. 7th round and 6th round. Of course, that was the Glenn Burney show with Phipps back in September of 2003.
Winning is very contagious, and Beets likes the feel of being a winner. Beets is getting frustrated now. He's responding to the crowd, and he doesn't need to do that. He's responding to the crowd who's complaining about the antics of Wright. Beets saying, what can I do?
Beets has a little mouse under his right eye, and I'm trying to figure out how that little critter crawled up on there. He hasn't even been hit.
Closing moments of the 5th round. Another good one for Troy Beets. Round 6 is next. This is round 6. Quickly to Jon Scheinman for the scorecard through 5. The fight is scheduled for 8. John.
Well, Wright's dug himself a hole. It's 49-43. Beets way ahead on my card. You know, Larry, at the weigh-in yesterday, Wright made no bones about his condition. He said, I'm not in good shape at all here. And he said that he was not going to be fighting all out and that he was going to be taking his time and hoping to land a big shot. He said, Kronk guys know what to do in situations like this. I'll pull through. So I don't expect anything other than this.
Well, he's clowning for the crowd right now. talking to the crowd, and really does not have his mind inside the ring.
Well, let's make a clarification for fight fans. He may spar at the Kronk gym, but he's not a Kronk fighter. And first of all, Kronk fighters come into the ring, it says Kronk across the front of their trunks. It does not say Kronk in front of his trunks. And there is a difference, and we're seeing it live in action tonight.
Wright continuing to cover up, Crafty in his own way.
He likes talking to us here at ringside. I'm not sure why. I would think he'd have his hands full with Mr. Beets. He's giving him a beating.
Beets backs away, and this is what he wants to do. He should just stay back.
It's a totally one-sided fight.
Wright not doing a very good job. Now he's talking to his corner, mocking his corner. I don't think I've seen a fighter ever speak as much to the crowd as we've seen Greg Wright speak tonight. I mean, half his mind is outside the ring, and really, I don't even want to say the other half is in. A quarter of his mind is in the ring, and the other quarter, we don't know where it's at.
Well, meanwhile, Beets is letting his fist do the talking. Left and right, left and right. Yeah, he's getting hit too. It's not all one-sided, but if Wright would just punch more, he would really be in the fight.
Don't think he has the confidence they can do it for any length of time. And Beets continues to hammer away. Not a lot of power in those shots. But again, no chance of Wright winning these types of rounds, is it, John?
Well, he's had a better round here. He's landed more punches off the ropes, but and not all those punches are landing by Beets either, but certainly he's carrying the action. He's probably got the better of it. Wright keeps turning over that right hand and clipping Beets with it, but Beets is really shaking it off. It's not as if it's hurting Beets because he keeps moving forward. And I don't think by the same token that Beets is really hurting Wright.
No, I don't think so. It's just, wearing him down a little bit, maybe. I mean, some of these punches are getting through.
Well, I'm waiting for the referee to tell Mr. Wright to start fighting so we can have some action here, but he's allowing him to get away with it.
Beets going to an angle. The ref is getting heckled by the fans as well, and this round comes to a close. We still have 6 more minutes left, and very seldom do you hear the fans in the ballroom boo, but they don't like what they see from Mr. Wright. All right, round 7 underway here in the ballroom. For more information on ballroom boxing or for ballroom boxing merchandise, check us out on the web, ballroomboxing.com. Larry Michael with Jon Saraceno, round 7 underway. Interesting fight with Troy Beets in the black and Greg Wright in the gold trunks with the red trim. Now Wright has spent, I'd say, 4 of the 6 rounds stuck up against the ropes, doing very little, but receiving punches from Beets. Again, right up against the ropes, doing very little. And the crowd booing. Now, what is the referee's discretion here, John Scheinman? Can he take a point away from Wright for his tactics?
Yes, he can take a point away for not fighting, and he can stop the fight if the guy doesn't fight after several warnings. I don't think that's going to be the case here, and I think Wright is doing just enough for Campaneschi not to do it.
Oh, he's not even fighting. This is nonsense.
Oh, I don't.
In fact, if anything, he took points from the other guy, the only guy who's doing any punching.
I agree with you, and I think it would be wise for Campaneschi to take a point away.
And more the same, Wright up against the ropes. Continuing the same style, scores with a combination of the skull of Troy Beets, who backs up and Wright waves to the crowd.
Fans deserve better than this. And usually they get it 90% of the time. And you know what? The only person to blame is the fighter basically himself, but the referee's got more discretion. He could have warned him, he could have taken away points, but he's allowed him off the hook for whatever reason.
Wright scores with the left on the inside as a counter. You count the scoring punches by Wright on one hand.
Howard told him, son, when you come to Maryland, we expect you to fight. If you don't want to fight, you can call it right here. You get an early shower. Get back on the bus for Detroit.
Again, Beets continuing his same pace. And I Beets is worn down a little bit. I mean, he has to be a little fatigued after all the energy he's expended here.
The Beets just throw a backhand. Almost threw a backhand. Quite on the opposite corner from us.
Back it up.
Thank God.
Come on back. Come on out of the corner. Come on out.
First time he tells him to come out of the corner. This is one reason why boxing is in the state it's in.
7th round winding down, and now Troy Beets backs off and waves Wright out. And Wright reluctantly scores a right hand. You wonder what would have happened if he had been in the center of the ring from the beginning. 3 minutes to go. Fans not liking what they see here in this one. All right, welcome back to Ballroom Boxing, the 8th and final round with 3 minutes to go. Jon Saraceno, what did your scorecard say?
50-some ballroom boxing shows we've done over the years. I think this might be my most lopsided card ever. 69-61 going into the 8th round. All Troy Beets. He's absolutely dominated this fight. And if Greg Wright thinks he's going to score a last knockout, don't forget, Troy Beets is taking the punches from the large heavyweight Jed Phipps pretty well. I don't think he's going to take it from this smaller guy.
Greg Wright arguing with the referee, and right now, let's listen.
You know what he did? The referee created a monster because he allowed the fighter to dictate his terms, how he was going to fight tonight. He let the fighter talk to the ringside people, clown it up, and you know, that's what he gets. Didn't take control of the fight, in my opinion. And I think Gary's been a very good referee over the years. But I think this was an off night, or an off fight.
Well, I mean, this could have been, I don't know if you could have predicted it. That's a good left hand by Troy Beets. But Wright had told Jon Scheinman that he was not in condition. He was going to find a way to get through the fight without expending all his energy. And when you heard that, you had to wonder what that strategy might be. And he really has shown no fire from the opening bell. Could have been a good fight. Now Beets is staying away. Finally, Wright decides he's going to fight a little bit. And for the first time in the fight, Troy Beets is moving, and Wright is in the center of the ring, actually in an offensive posture.
Well, Beets is smart because he's got the fight wrapped up. I mean, why would you want to trade with the guy now? So, I mean, he's doing the right thing at this point in the fight. Why get caught? Box and move. The crowd clearly behind Beets.
Well, this is a boxing crowd here in the ballroom that knows a good fight. They know when a guy's dogging it.
Thank God this is in the minority of fights we have in the Ballroom Boxing Series. A distinct minority.
Wright continues to get hammered in the corner. I mean, he's throwing prayers right now, hoping one will be answered. I'm not so sure he's got the power to knock out Troy Beets at this stage.
Listen, God is asleep right now. He's not even listening if he's watching this fight. There ain't be no prayer answered here.
Wright just waiting for this fight to run out. Troy Beets would appear headed towards a lopsided victory.
I got news. If Beets doesn't win,
shades of Cosell. And more of the same as this one wraps up. Troy Beets hammering away at Greg Wright in the corner. And Troy Beets playing to the crowd. We need some excitement. And he's going to give it to us now that the fight is over. We'll have the decision as Beets celebrates. The decision is coming up next from the ball. Well, I'm not so sure we've seen as lopsided a fight as we saw in that one with Greg Wright just line up against the ropes and letting Troy Beets pound on him for 8 rounds, John.
Well, it was clearly a one-sided fight, and there's really not much you can say about it. Wright did not come to fight. That's the best way you can put it.
And you would imagine that this is going to be a wide margin on the scorecards. Let's find out from Pat O'Malley.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. We go to the judges. Judge Bill Holmes scores it 79-71. Judge Chevalier scores it 77-73, as does Judge Malik Waleed. And the winner by unanimous decision, Troy the Basher
John, I would say yes, the right decision, but a shocking scorecard there.
I thought that two of the judges had it scored much closer than we did. Sure, Wright did land some shots off the ropes, but the volume of punches that Beets landed, I just thought it was a easy win, no question about it, and it wasn't unanimous decision.
There's some of the action. This in a microcosm was the fight. Right up against the ropes for almost the entire fight, with Beets pounding away, then backing off, pounding away, then backing off. That's how the fight went from bell to bell. And Troy Beets gets his 10th win as a professional and his 3rd in a row. And in fact, he's on a pretty nice roll right now, starting with that victory over Jed Phipps here in the Ballroom a few months ago.
Well, Beets is on a roll. Let's see what he has to say. We're going to be hearing from John Scheinman and Mr. Beets very shortly.
All right, so that's how the action looks. Standing by now live with Jon Scheinman as the winner, Troy Beets. John.
Troy, it looked at times that you had taken your old grandpappy off the porch and were giving him a beating because there wasn't a whole lot of resistance put up there by Wright. Were you a little disappointed that you weren't able to put on a better show for the crowd because he wasn't fighting back?
Honestly, he wasn't fighting back, which that gave me less of an opportunity to catch him with a good shot to possibly knock him out. He's a tough fighter. He's a journeyman fighter. He's been fighting a long time. He's fought some good fighters. He held the NABF. He held the IBC. I'm just glad that I got the opportunity to fight this young man. He did well. I mean, that's what we saw. You know, basically, you know, like I had a lot of work in there. I was doing a lot of punching, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy that I won.
Let's go back early into the fight. You had a point taken away for elbows, and you were clearly propping him up against the ropes. Whenever he tried to slide off, you would nudge him back in with the elbows. We saw one of the shots early on. He complained that he got poked in the eye. I thought maybe it was an elbow in the eye.
I'm not really sure. I can't really look back at that. I was in there to beat the guy, definitely.
But did you think the point should have been taken away for keeping him propped up like that?
I really honestly don't remember hitting him with the elbow at the time that they took the point. I do remember catching with the elbow to the eye. That was an accident. It was an accidental, but I think it's bad habits learned on the heavy bag. So I don't think I'll be hitting the heavy bag for a long time. Double M bag, speed bag. Bad habits on the heavy bag.
Even with
shoving.
Sorry, even with a performance like this, and it's a lackluster fight, even though you dominated, you've gained a tremendous amount of fans in the ballroom. I mean, you stopped there, the hometown hero Jed Phipps, and instead of hating you, they took to you. And tonight, you got a tremendous cheer. Do you think that that this could be like a home away from home with you?
I'd love it to be. I love this place. I love these people. These people are. They give me that extra incentive to keep on doing better. They're cheering for me, and it shows what good sportsmanship these people are. What kind of good people y'all have out here, and I appreciate it. These people are great.
You told me last night at the weigh-in that you trained for this fight by camping in the Mississippi woods with your family, drinking Bud Light. You looked in pretty good shape to me.
Thank you. They called me 3 days before this fight, and they said, "Hey, you got the fight. You're fighting this guy. It's pretty good. He was a former NABF, former IBC champion." I said, well, I'd love to fight. I was out there camping. I had a cabin I rented, and we were out there. I was drinking a couple beers and carrying on, eating food, and doing what I had to do. They called me. I said, well, better get to the gym in the morning. So before I flew out, I trained pretty good, and I ran about 3 miles. I figured that'd be good enough to win a good fight.
A few cans of beer, 3 miles of road work. He's ready to go 8 rounds, no problem. Troy Beets, second win here on the Ballroom. This one impressive over Wright. Back to ringside.
Well, that was your audio diary of Troy Beets' last 3 weeks. Actually, last week and a half in the woods in Mississippi, and he comes to the Ballroom and he takes home the win.
He's going to set boxing training methods back 100 years if other fighters catch on.
Hey, if that's the case, I'm ready to go now. We'll have more Ballroom boxing coming up in just a moment. Don't go away.
This is Hassan the Rock Rockman coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll be at the Ballroom March the 11th taking on Al Cole, former world champion. I'm on a mission to regain the heavyweight championship. It's going to start March the 11th. I want all y'all there at this event tonight to witness this fight on March the 11th. Be there. You're not going to want to miss it.
All right, welcome back to Ballroom Boxing, and it is time for our main event. John, we know what the main event's going to be on March the 11th, don't we?
Yes, Hasim Rahman, former heavyweight champion of the world, is coming here to Glen Burnie. This is going to be the biggest fight of our lives, and Hasim is going to try to get back on the heavyweight championships trail, and it's going to begin right here.
Now, Hasim Rahman has said that Al Cole is his next opponent here March 11th in the Ballroom. After that, I think he's looking at a couple fights and possibly getting back in to the world heavyweight title picture, don't you think?
Well, definitely. He's got to get some tune-ups under his belt. He has not won since he knocked out Lennox Lewis. And for Hasim Rahman, it's about building his confidence, getting back in the ring, and then trying to edge his way back in the heavyweight championship picture.
That's March 11th. It's time for tonight's main event. Let's go down to Pat O'Malley.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. Would everyone please rise for the singing of the national anthem by Glen Burnie's own Tim Koenig.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Tim Koenig, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll be back after a short timeout. Maryland state rules are in effect for tonight's fight. They are as follows. The 3 knockdown rule is not in effect. There is no standing 8 count. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round. Only the referee and ringside physician can stop the bout. In the event of an accidental headbutt which causes a stoppage before half the rounds have been completed, the fight will be declared a technical draw. If the butt causes a stoppage after half the rounds have been completed, they'll go to the scorecards. And 3 judges score the fight on a 10-point must system.
Time for our big heavyweight matchup. Unbeaten Brian Minto taking on Jed Phipps, coming back from his only loss as a professional. With more on this 8-rounder in the heavyweight division, here's Jon Scheinman.
What a critical fight in the career of Jed Phipps, coming off that loss to Troy Beets, in which his nose was broken and he was put down and he just was beaten up so badly. Now we're going to find out what his confidence is like against undefeated 10-0 Brian Minto out of Butler, Pennsylvania. Minto he's a kind of a sawed-off little guy. He's got a great aggressive walk-in slugger style. You figured he might be made to order for Phipps, but at the weigh-in yesterday, I kind of saw some shaky confidence in Phipps. He was a little worried about fighting a smaller guy, and he was concerned that the fight was 8 rounds and not 6. I just wonder how much he's come back here. It's a huge test to see if he's going to go on and have a longer pro career. Crossroads fight.
All right, Brian Minto, the linebacker from Slippery Rock. Back in the ring now. He is 10-0, taking on Jed Phipps, 2 heavyweights. Let's go to Pat O'Malley for the official introductions.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. It's time now for the Ballroom Boxing main event. The Maryland State Athletic Commission Chairman David J. Norman, Executive Director Patrick Pinella, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Labor, Licensing and Regulation, Dr. James D. Fielder, Jr., along with the commissioners at ringside, William Bill McCaffrey, Ballroom Boxing promoters Scott and Michael Wagner, and Director of Boxing Operations, Dave Wilkerson. The matchmakers are Chris Middendorf and Josh Hall, and together they proudly present this 8-round bout in the heavyweight division. The State Athletic Commission Counsel is Bruce C. Spiesler. The physicians at ringside are Dr. Edmund J. McDonald, Jr. and Dr. Stephen F. Manikin, the chief physician and neurologist. Your timekeeper is Tommy Canaris. The scorekeeper is Gary Campaneschi. And if a decision is to be rendered, it will be done by the judges at ringside, Kenny Chevalier, John Gradowski, and Malik Wali. And the man in charge when this 8-round bout commences is your referee, Bill Holmes. Introducing the boxers for the main event. Boxing out of the blue corner, wearing the gold trunks with black trim. He weighed in at 207.5 pounds. His record, a perfect 10-0, 5 via the KO. He hails from Butler, Pennsylvania. Please welcome Brian Minto. To my left, out of the red corner, wearing the silver trunks with black trim. He tipped the scales at 221 3/4 pounds. His record, 10-1, 6 via the KO. Please welcome Baltimore's Jed Phipps.
Phipps and Minto, a combined record of 20-1 for these two heavyweights.
Gentlemen, you receive your instructions in the dressing room. Protect yourselves at all times. Obey my commands. Touch them up.
All right, John, take a look at that matchup. Phipps and Minto.
Well, two big guys in the ring. You see Brian Minto's basically giving up 15 pounds to Jed Phipps, who's 6'2". Brian Minto only 5'11". He's got to find a way to get on the inside, make Jed Phipps respect him.
Question about Brian Minto here. He has lost almost 25 pounds since November of last year. Got out of shape after playing football.
Break.
And he said he's going to fight, pressure style fight, try to go right to Jed Phipps and test him early. He knows what happened to Jed Phipps last time out.
And that's the biggest battle for Phipps tonight. He's above the shoulders. You see how he's built, very strong, aggressive puncher. But upstairs, how fragile is Phipps going to be coming off that devastating knockout loss?
Of course, there was the cut above the left eye that started the downfall for Jed in that fight.
And he fought valiantly in that fight. He
Showed
really
a lot of
did.
heart.
Yes, he did. Courageous performance.
Brian Minto, former football player, said he was a run stuffer at college at Slippery Rock.
The Rock. He's from Western PA. Butler's not far from my neck of the woods.
Indeed, he said that he had boxed in high school, but then got the scholarship to play football and left the sport. And when obviously his football career ended at college, he picked it up. He is an unemployed construction worker, laid off recently, so he's fighting to make a living.
And that's a dangerous opponent to have in front of you.
Break.
And you see that Minto's trying to show Phipps how strong he is on the inside, bull his way in, and try to land something big early. This with that right hand. Good body shot by Minto. Two downstairs to Jed Phipps. He'll do himself a world of good if he can get Jed to lower his hands to try to protect that body.
Minto trying to corner with the right hand, not putting on the pressure that he said he would. And of course, Jed Phipps has something to do with that.
Jed's got to use that jab. And right there, he did use it. The only thing is, Minto countered with the right hand.
Phipps holding on a little bit here. This fight is scheduled for 8 rounds. That's longer than any fight that Phipps had been scheduled to fight. Actually, he had been scheduled to fight 8 rounds against Troy Beets, and it was stopped in round 6.
Punching from the outside is Phipps. A little bit dangerous there.
Step back, step back, step back.
Leave
step
yourself
back.
exposed for a counter. Minto still trying to find a way to get inside. Phipps holding. Both men testing their strength against each other on the inside.
Big left hand by Phipps, but the counter has Phipps in trouble, and he's down. The counter by Minto puts Jed Phipps down at the end of the round. The bell cannot save the fighter in any round, and he is up, but he taste the canvas in the first.
His mouthpiece has been hanging open the whole first round, Jed Phipps. Didn't look very confident or sturdy the entire 3 minutes of the opening round, Larry.
And he is stunned. We'll be back with more from the ballroom. Round 2 is next.
Coming up here, March the 11th.
All right, welcome back to Ballroom Boxing. Jed Phipps trying to recover from that late knockdown in round 1. Trying to get it back together. Here's what happened. Left hook.
Yep. Sharp left hook right on the point of the chin. Delayed reaction. His legs were going east and west at the same time. Nobody can question Jed Phipps' heart, but the doubt right now is that chin. And it's going to get tested some more. Let's see what happens.
Brian Minto has to be full of confidence. There you see the rubbery-legged nature of Jed Phipps at the end of round 1. We'll see if he's recovered. We've seen him in some dire straits before. He's got a lot of heart. Question is on the chin right now.
Well, you got to pump that jab. Jeb's the bigger and theoretically stronger fighter. He's hurt there.
Oh, big right hand by Brian Minto, and Jed Phipps is down again. He's got great recuperative powers.
He's looking at his corner. He knows when he wants to get up.
Gets up at the count of 9.
Walk to me, walk to me, walk to me.
And Brian Minto comes charging out. Left-right combination. Phipps trying to hold on, and Bill Holmes is going to call an end to this one.
And that's a good stoppage because Jed Phipps does not know where he's at right now. He was fighting on sheer reaction and willpower and courageousness. Very good stoppage by Bill Holmes.
Brian Minto does what he said he would do, come right to Jed Phipps and test his chin. And Jed Phipps fails the test tonight in the ballroom.
Yeah, he's still glassy-eyed. Phipps is in his corner standing up, but I don't think he knows where he is right now.
Here's how it ended. Right hand. And another one. You know, I'm not so sure that he had recovered completely.
He did.
From the previous round.
He was concussed from that first round. A very dangerous moment for a fighter. And I think referee Holmes did the right thing. We're going to see a replay here. Second round, right hand, right on the skull. Jed Phipps was out of it, and he is still, I think, a little wobbly and a very disappointed young man.
Yeah, it's tough. Back-to-back knockout losses for Jed Phipps. Another win for Brian Minto, who keeps his record a perfect 11-0. You might see Brian Minto back in the ballroom. Impressively taking Jed Phipps out in round 2. And Minto told us earlier today that he was very confident, thought this was his toughest opponent to date. This was a big-time test for him. And Pat O'Malley with the official time of the knockout. Patrick.
Your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. The winner by knockout, 38 seconds in the round 2, Brian Minto.
No doubt about this one. Brian Minto is the winner in the ballroom. We'll have more ballroom boxing from Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie in a moment. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Toyota. By Michael's 8th Avenue, a host of grand occasions. By BallroomBoxing.com, the latest in ballroom boxing action, including upcoming live events and season tickets. Well, Brian Minto dispatches Jed Phipps in round 2. Let's take another look at how this one ended before we hear from the winner, Brian Minto, who said his aggression was going to be the difference, and it really did pay off from the opening bell. Wobbled Jed Phipps in round number 1, and in round 2, he knocks him out. Let's take a look how it ended. There was Jed Phipps flat on his back, and he got up, and Bill Holmes took a look at him, and obviously he could not continue. So it is Brian Minto running his record to 11-0. The win by knockout here tonight over Jed Phipps, and the winner is standing by with Jon Scheinman. John?
Brian, you told me at the weigh-in yesterday that you had no problem fighting big guys. This was a big guy, and you took him out pretty easily.
He hit me with a couple shots, but his punch, I thought he had a lot more on it, but it really didn't stun me too bad. And I seen that left hook kept opening up. He was dropping his right hand. I took advantage of that and went to his body a couple times, but you know, I just kept working. He kept telling me, he said, step over to the side, throw your hook, and I did it.
Yes, the left hook was the big shot, and it was a counter punch, and it just it just shut him down, and you followed up with some punches. But I think that's the one that would have put him down anyway.
Yeah, punch he didn't see, I believe. That's what caught him.
Where do you think you stand in your career now? I mean, this is probably the biggest fight of your career. A lot of exposure. 11-0 now. Are you going to go take on bigger game?
Yeah, we're talking about a fight right now with Gary Wilcox. He's a cruiserweight. I think he's 18-7, so we're looking at fighting him next month on the 20th. But we're going to talk about that. We'll look at some film first before we make any decisions.
Did you get a sense that Jed Phipps maybe didn't have a lot of confidence in there? He's usually, more of an authoritative fighter. He's coming off a very tough knockout. Was that in your mind going into the fight?
Well, you know what? When I got in a clinch with him, I could tell he wasn't relaxed. He was real tight, and I heard him breathing real hard. And I was relaxed, because I wasn't going to get myself all worked up because it kills your energy levels. But I stayed on him. I heard him breathing, and I just, kept touching him, and that big opening came, and I took it.
Now, Jon Saraceno says that you're an old linebacker guy from Slippery Rock, like to plug the run. Is this a tough transition from football into boxing?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I was a real aggressive linebacker, but in boxing, you can be aggressive to a point where it can get you hurt. So, you got to learn to control yourself a little bit more here in a football field. But also, like when you break down and make a tackle, you got to break down and make punches, too.
Well, you broke down Jed Phipps pretty well. Brian Minto, now he goes to 11-0. Big knockout win with the left hook in the ballroom. Back to ringside.
So Brian Minto takes home the victory by way of second-round knockout over Jed Phipps. And I think the fans here, as well as those watching, John, looking forward to that March 11th appearance by the Rock, Hasim Rahman, coming to the ballroom to take on Al Cole next time around.
Larry, anytime you can get a former heavyweight champion in your house, that's got to be a good night. It's something we're really going to look forward to and can't wait for the audience to join us.
That's a good night coming up. We hope you enjoyed tonight's action. For Jon Saraceno and John Scheinman, I'm Larry Michael. Thanks for watching Ballroom Boxing.